Good morning, everyone. My name is Ron Appletoft, and I am the mayor of Mission, Kansas. I'd like to welcome you to the Pearl Harbor Survivors Remembrance Ceremony on the 79th anniversary of the attack. Like so many other aspects of our lives, COVID-19 has required us to be flexible, and our 2020 remembrance is being held virtually. In a couple of moments, it will be 11:55 a.m., which is 7:55 a.m. Hawaii time. This is the time the attack on Pearl Harbor began. It is now 11:55 a.m. Please join me for a moment of silence. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today, we are gathered to remember and honor Pearl Harbor survivors as well as other veterans of World War II for their sacrifices in the fight for freedom. We would also like to recognize veterans and current members of the armed services who are participating virtually with us today. This honor goes to all who have served in the armed forces, which include the United States Air Force, the United States Army, the United States Coast Guard, the United States Marine Corps, and the United States Navy. Two marble benches in the Pearl Harbor Memorial Park feature the names of 56 servicemen who were members of the local chapter of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association. The names of these fallen comrades will be read, and the tolling of the bell after each name will serve as a tribute to their service.
Here are the names of local Pearl Harbor survivors engraved on the marble benches at the Memorial Park in Mission. Carl Appleberry, John Berry, John Babcock, Joe Brandt, Jimmy Black, Orville Brewer, Jack Carson, Carl Christensen, Eddie Christensen, John Coburn, Raymond Kozad, Jesse Dunnigan, Buddy Durant, Ralph Geringer, James Geitz, Louis Graham, Mose Gross, Gordon Haley, Harold Hall, James Harvey, Harry Helmsing, Charles Hine, Robert Holcomb, James Jackson, Woodrow Jones, Jack Jorgensen, Aman Carr, David Keller, James Kennedy, Fritz Croft, Dorwin Lampkin, Edward Lyons, Stanley Levitt, Donald Lowry, H.P. Monslow, Vernon Moore, Eugene Perkins, Clifford Pitts, Francis Riley, Charles Reicher, Robert Rowlands, Edmund Russell, Edgelif Schmidt, Don Spitzengold, Ken Spry, Vern Stevens, Kenneth Stevens, H.O. Turner, William Tucker, Cliff Walton, Robert Wheeler, William Widener, Richard Williams, Norman Winkler, John Yates, Robert Zillner.
At this time, please join me in a final remembrance of our veterans of World War II in the Pacific Theater as we view a wreath placed in Mission's Pearl Harbor Park. Thank you for participating in today's virtual ceremony in remembrance of Pearl Harbor. We hope very soon to be able to commemorate this important historical event in person. Stay tuned for several pictures from past commemorations and additional resources.
I am a local girl grew up in Hawaii, have a Hawaiian mother and a father from Missouri, where I now live. And we were living on a peninsula, which goes into the middle of Pearl Harbor. And we were not military. The military built all the way around us. So being in the harbor, you know, I was used to getting on my bicycle and riding down to the end of the peninsula, and my dog would go with me, and we could see the ships, and we could see Pearl Harbor, the military goings on there. And we looked up in the sky, and just barely above our house and barely above the treetops were these bombers coming over. And you know, I'm 6 years old, so I don't know what kind of planes these are, and I'm not scared because, you know, I'm with my dad, and but they're coming in so low, and I now know what they are. They were the torpedo bombers on their final descent, because the ships are just a matter of a few hundred yards from our house. And the pilots, when they would bank as they'd head closer to the ships, you could see the pilots, you could see their face, you could see the goggles on their eyes. And then pretty soon there's all this oily black smoke and the noise and the smells in the air. So my dad grabs me and runs back in the house, and my baby brother's asleep in his crib, so we get him and Mom, and he puts us in the back of our car, and we try to get away from the bombing. And what we run into by that time is Army trucks on the road, and we pull our car off to make room for them. But above Pearl City is an area where sugarcane grows, and it's the Waimanu Home Road. So that's where we take our car, and we just stay up there in the sugarcane fields. And pretty soon, more and more of our neighbors are leaving the harbor, and they're coming up. And my dad tries to get some kind of information. And so he takes the dial on the car radio, and what we hear is, all military, get to your bases. This is the real McCoy.
Yes, all right. How did you feel when you were preparing this session, and what was the first memory that came up in your mind?
You know, I'm usually asked, weren't you scared? I wasn't scared till that night. But mostly I'm not scared because I have my baby brother, I have my mom, I have my dad, the people I love the most, we're together. But when the rumors of all our neighbors are around us and they're saying things like, I bet you they're putting poison gas in the air, and I bet there's an invasion, and by the time we wake up in the morning, we're going to be surrounded by soldiers, and I know they're parachuting in. And so we're all really, really scared. And just about that very same time, from Waipahu, which sits up a little bit high, we can look down to Pearl Harbor, and of course now it's dark, but all of a sudden the harbor lights up again. And so everybody says, the Japanese have come back, just like we knew they would. Took me 50 years to find out what that was, because we don't like to talk about what we saw that night. And if I had you here live, I would ask you, who knows what friendly fire is? And I think all your hands would go up, because what we saw were 6 airplanes off the USS Enterprise that had come into the harbor that night. We shot them down. One crashed a block from my house. And I always thought that it was a part of the December 7th in that firing, never knew that it was friendly fire. So one of the pilots survived, and I got his story, which was such a gift.
So one more picture we have right here. This is actually a little bit about civilian life afterwards. And what we have right here is we actually have Dorinda's picture right here.
Here it is. Here it is.
And so this is Dorinda and her younger brother. And it is, the caption is Dorinda Nicholson and her brother Ishmael with gas masks in their front yard, Pro City Peninsula, 1942.
Thank you for viewing. This concludes Mission's Pearl Harbor Commemoration. A recorded version of this presentation is available for viewing on www.missionks.org.